Thanks for joining Scene Squad. I'm your host, political and cultural critic Sharon with 2 R's, and joined today with my co-host, historian, and my TikTok sibling. Well, sibling or like semi-surrogate daughter, Rosalie.
Whatever you'd
and,
like to call me, I'm honored either way.
and you're listening to Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. So let's get started with our market crash marches and medic attacks. Oh my, that market crash. We are in free fall. And this is going to be y'all's president, not mine, y'all's president's 7th bankruptcy. So we're going to have this young man here explain to us. We're going to play two videos. And then Rosalie, you and I are going to discuss on the other side. So let's get our explanation of what's going on, because my head's still swimming.
The stock market hasn't crashed this badly since the Great Depression. We're about to see 3 straight days of 4% declines in the S&P 500, something that hasn't been witnessed in over 75 years. Multiple international markets have already hit their circuit breaker, meaning that they went down so fast, so much, that they actually halted the stock markets. At this point, even Elon Musk is publicly criticizing the tariffs. If you have a job right now, you better hope that you don't lose it. Because if you thought the job market was bad before, it's about to get a whole lot worse. The US stock market has dropped an average of $300 billion per day every single day for the last 30 days. And now we're officially in bear market territory, 22% off from the highs. Most people thought that the tariffs were mostly a negotiation tactic and that it wasn't actually going to happen. But at this point, even if a lot of the tariffs are repealed, a ton of goodwill has been erased. Markets hate volatility and uncertainty, and they certainly will not tolerate a president who is going to tariff everyone on a whim. Puts seem like the most obvious play ever, but be careful because during bear markets, you'll also see huge rallies, so it's really hard to time. I don't think we've seen anywhere near the end of this crash because on Friday, we saw a record outflow from hedge funds and a record inflow from retail traders like you and me, which effectively means all the smart money is getting out and dumb money is going in.
Recessions are designed and implemented by corporations, billionaires, and the politicians they pay for. They're meant to make you spend down your savings, cash out your retirement, and sell or lose your house. That way they can swoop in and buy up all those assets for super cheap. Trump is creating a recession right now. These tariffs are not about bringing manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. That would look more like a program of targeted investment in education. No, these tariffs are meant to drive our economy into a tailspin to increase unemployment because that will drive down wages and make corporations even more profitable. And they do it like clockwork. It's almost every 10 years. And they're going to do it to us again and again and again until we decide we're not going to fucking do it anymore. And just because I can tell you're dying to know, today's fit is a tie-dye shirt that I made with my daughter.
This is right up your alley, Rosalie.
It is. I do mortgages. And to be honest with you, I think what I'm hearing from a lot of those channels right now is a lot of folks who are either still trying to find the silver linings in what's going on right now. I'm hearing discussions about people talking about, okay, well, because of what we're seeing in the market right now, we can anticipate that potentially we're going to see interest rates coming down to help offset some of the inflation that we're going to be seeing going on. And potentially we're going to see a refi boom. So a lot of folks who were locking in interest rates and getting mortgages in the last few months of, 7.5%, 8%. Some folks were just trying to get into a house and say we can refinance it later. They may get the opportunity, but again, like this guy said, the volatility in the market is so unsustainable, and the way that it's unfolding is not like we have seen before. I think a lot of people are not, I'm not saying it's entirely unprecedented because like he says, this is kind of a great reset, but in the sense that this is probably the first time that the United States has been on such thin ice with virtually all of our allies. And so conversations that I'm having with folks right now who are potentially waiting for this crash to happen so that they can kind of afford to buy a home, I am, urging them to please remember that this is not 2008. In fact, it will be that and then some, because we also have the issue of so many more people defaulting on student loan debt, and that will be coming up due. And they kind of keep kicking that can down the road. But I don't see Donald Trump necessarily getting rid of that altogether. And eventually he will make us start paying those again on top of people who are kind of being, poised to have these hedge funds come in, or these venture capital funds to come in and essentially buy up single family homes, keep them off the market. They have been the ones artificially driving up home costs as it was to begin with. And so I've been telling people for years, at least from the housing market perspective, that a bubble was forming, and it was an artificial bubble that was forming. And it was the first time I'd been in the industry while watching it happen in real time. And a lot of people are very conservative in the mortgage industry as well. And so a lot of that falls on deaf ears when you start trying to sound alarm bells in that sense. I won't say that I've personally experienced a lot more shady things going on what I'm doing, because the regulations are very heavy on the mortgage industry, but the deregulation overall in general, and then throwing the tariffs in, I think that he's setting us up for a full-scale collapse of the system.
I can't get over.
We're not ready for it. And millennials are poised to handle it because we became adults during a financial crisis. But this is going to be a tougher battle than what we witnessed our Gen X go through in the early 2000s.
Me, Gen X, and then people my age, they're people with the loans, the predatory loans, the payday loans. Now it's just they're just swamped with that. And then what was it? Oh, the first time I heard about the circuit breaker today. I was just like, oh my God. Like you were saying, this has never happened before.
Right.
The circuit breaker. I was like, there's a global circuit breaker. It's like, bloop, we got to cut this off. So we were cut off from the rest of the world because they were trying to save themselves. I had no idea that existed. That's amazing to me.
We're watching and I can possibly, I don't know exactly when they went into place, because I haven't been heavy into the history of stock trading in that type of sense, and the little, nooks and crannies of it. But I can assume that if that is something that they're implementing, that there's a lot of things that went into place after 2008. A lot of things. And I think what happened is that the world got wise to the fact that, one, we cannot continue. I think that's when China realized, and a lot of other countries started to realize and started consolidating and started investing in their own infrastructure, because they realized that if the American market goes, every time the American market goes, all of us suffer. And so that's why you see things like BRICS emerging. It's why you see these alternative systems being built, because what's been happening, the U.S., the revisit of the U.S.'s classics, people are tired of the show and they don't want to do it anymore. And kind of like that guy said, is they're going to keep doing this until we say we're not going to do it. We have to choose to not do this anymore.
And the people have to do it. And more specifically, the white people in this country. This is y'all's mess, kind of, this is y'all's mess. But I wanted to show this Canada Toronto Star. They won with this headline today. Opinion: Donald Trump has pushed America into a golden age of stupid. God. Now Canada's chance to be smart. I'm laughing because I'm upset. I'm upset. But I wanted everybody to see that this front page. So
I think the world is gonna the pieces are being shuffled around on the board, and there's no stopping that at this point. We're going to be seeing the power dynamics of the world shifting, and we are not going to be at the top of that pile anymore. And in all fairness, I don't think we deserve to be on top of it to start with. I don't think there should be a top of a pile at all. Frankly, I think we all deserve to have our fair share and to have our governments represent the interests of the people. If we're going to have a government, it should represent the interests of the people. If
For
not,
the people, by the people.
what is the
Like,
point?
that's what it started. Well,
Right.
supposedly started as.
Right. It is because they wanted to manage the way that this republic and these types of republics were formed is because they were managing people across large swaths of land. And so they needed representatives to kind of come into a capital and be there as representatives of these big, large areas. You don't see these types of things happening when there are smaller, kind of more concentrated little conglomerates of people who kind of cooperate with each other. There's fighting, but there isn't this, you know.
Look at this here. Circuit breakers. Here are all the markets that hit circuit breakers today so far: China, Taiwan, Japan, Russell Futures, Australia, Singapore. Like, oh my God.
Right.
I was like, wow, circuit breakers. Okay, I'm gonna pull up and I'll link the article. I'm not gonna read the article, but I wanted to pull up this screenshot. I made a screenshot of this one here. Newsweek. Circuit breakers were triggered in Japan, South Korea, Taiwan stock markets as they reacted to Trump
in the 80s.
Trump's sweeping tariffs on Monday, with U.S. markets opening the week sharply lower. Okay, come on now. In the bowels of Hades. Before briefly recovering and then falling again in a new bout of volatility over the scope and strategy of the White House tariff policy. Like, there's no, I mean,
that makes sense for them pulling that out in the 1980s, because if you think about who was running the show back then, and we have that sort of same vibe emulating, but like kicked up a notch nowadays with the current president. I mean, the U.S. market has been just deemed unstable. It's been held up by other countries having interest in the United States. And I think a lot of the folks who voted for Donald Trump and did this America First thing failed to listen and pay attention to the fact that there is a specific reason why we have bases all over the world. If we didn't rely on the economies of other people all over the world, we don't invest in real estate when there's no ROI, right? And so all of the countries are realizing that they need to kick the United States. You see countries in Africa kicking the United States out of their areas. You're starting to see people say they spent enough time keeping their heads down and focusing on their business, and the United States spent its time making sure it was everyone else's business and not handling our infrastructure here. And so when you want to isolate a little bit more, we don't have the infrastructure to provide jobs for people. We don't have, people think we're going to cut all these tariffs and we're going to start manufacturing everything here in the US. People are halting construction of factories because of the cost that it's going to take to construct them now.
Manufacturing is not coming back, folks. Right. It's not coming back. A lot of
folks in China are saying, okay, so you're bringing manufacturing jobs back to the US. Machines are doing a lot of the manufacturing in China now. It's not as many people out there doing what these jobs are that they think that we're doing. Like, they have allowed automation to take over the things so that humans can focus on other things to do in those countries, which they focused on their infrastructure. They focused on building out the things that were going to help with, making sure that there was sustainability in what they were trying to do. And I'm not saying that we need to be all following exactly what China is doing to a T. That they also don't get into the top 5 without having done some things, right?
But the thing about China, though, they the nerve of him threatening China, considering they hold a lot of our debt.
Right.
It's just like, you owe your landlord money, but you're threatening him at the same time. Like, I'm going to cut your tires or whatever.
Donald Trump doesn't believe in paying debt. So
that part. But I mean, it's reflective on us, but I like the little sly shade that China threw back. Like they're like, okay, 34% tariffs back on the U.S. And that means that that's that's a part of his 34 felonies. It's like his 34 felonies. So it's like, here, 34 felonies. 34% terrorists, 34 felonies. To keep reminding him, we own you. We own you. You owe us.
Can't even argue about that one, honestly. I agree with you. I will say that overall, just in general, this is absolutely, it's definitely white people need to get with the program and recognize that as soon as we decide to stop voting against our best interests or other people's best interests, we can actually get somewhere. But what we can't continue to do is go in these spirals and be like, I wonder how we got here. This is so crazy. This is unprecedented. I have no idea what to do. Give me a list.
It's so exhausting at this point. It's like, but listen to Rosalie. You guys listen to Rosalie.
It's such lazy behavior. It's weaponizing confidence. It's lazy behavior. I don't know how to do it. Just give me a list. How many times do women complain about men doing that? And it's White Women Whisperer, if you follow her on any of the
yeah.
Brought up that she got her account demonetized because she brought up the fact that specifically like white women were kind of like the men of women in that way. And white women got very upset about it. But like, I understood exactly what she was talking about. I was like, yeah, that's, you know what? Fair play. I actually wound up subscribing to her Patreon because of her asking that question. And a lot of people got her demonetized for it. And that tells you, like you said, it speaks to that issue. It was also a huge reason why with the protests that happened this past weekend, a lot of the Black community said we are staying home. Because every time we go out there, you let us be cannon fodder and it gets violent because they want it to get violent with us. They will harm us physically. But you see the protests, the Black community said we're gonna let white people walk for themselves, stand up for themselves, do something for themselves this time. You need to show up. You need to be on the front lines. Your turn. And what I will say is that there were millions of people who showed up this past weekend to do those things. And I will say that there were some white womening after, talking about bounce houses and why wasn't this more comfortable for the kids? And I know that the Black community was just sitting there. I would love to get your take. I would love to get. I may ask you about that because I've heard your take, but I would love to hear what you have to say about that because I have opinions, but I don't think mine's as relevant.
Well, yes, your opinions are relevant. Like everybody has a relevant opinion, as long as it's not violent or mean or malicious.
I want to hear you. I want to hear your take first.
I was kind of I was impressed. So now I'm proud at the same time. So I'm glad that everybody showed up and showed out. Miss Kennis said she's an elder, and I asked her yesterday like how long she'd been in the fight because she's like I think 70. She just had a birthday, so I think she's like 72. She doesn't look it. So she's been in the fight for civil rights and everything for years, and she said that this has to be an ongoing thing. So that's a message to white people that some people might keep asking, well, what do we do? Where do we go from now? This has to be ongoing. You can't just go just this to one day and then think that, okay, we did this one day. No, from this one day, you have to keep going today, tomorrow, after that, because these people are not going to stop until you stop them. Y'all have to stop them. Your community has to stop them because everything was set up for y'all and y'all's community from the start of this country. So seeing how the Black community has over the years not tried to make progress, this at this point has to be dismantled. Now, the way that this government is entrenched now, this Trump regime is entrenched, the GOP, the Republicans, they've got their claws in. These billionaires, these oligarchs, these tech bros, these feudal lords are, their claws are in now. So in my lifetime, I'm not going to see any more progress, unfortunately, because this is going to take that last election. There's going to be a result of generations of work to kind of get back on a semblance. of correction for what happened November 5th. And that's just, it's kind of heart-wrenching to me, because I want I want to see some kind of progress, because like my parents, they marched in Montgomery, Alabama with Martin Luther King, for the civil rights movement. They put up with a lot of sacrifices. Everything that they sacrificed is gone.
Yeah.
Just gone. And that hurts my heart.
I think what we're seeing right now is that, and I really appreciate you sharing that, because you're right. I think that this is the letdown and the going back to the how much more time do you need, the James Baldwin of it all, right? And it's so frustrating. And I know that being somebody who has finally come into understanding a lot of these things for the first time in my mid-20s to late 20s, and now I'm in my early 30s, so I didn't even start exploring these topics until I was decades old. And I'm the first probably in my family to really even start getting into the nitty-gritties of analyzing these topics. Like my generation in the family are the first ones, and there's only like 2 or 3 of us in the entire family that hold these views and are learning how to have these difficult conversations, because I understand that we always want to look at what Republicans are doing. But I think one of the things that we have got to get a better handle on is actually white liberals, right? And I think that's also been the conversation for a long time. White liberal women are stifling what these movements could be, because of the same reasons why white women vote for Donald Trump. We are all meant to play our role in upholding this system. Now, whether we play good cop or bad cop really depends on what part of the system we were raised in and what makes the most. It reveals itself over time how you can be to the republic, right?
Right.
And it's a terrifying thing to do. But I will say it's been probably one of the most rewarding experiences. The knowledge that I'm every day getting the feedback that and the feeling that we're moving in that direction. And that's what kind of gives me hope, is that people like me, where 10 years ago, if you'd asked me these questions, I was just becoming a liberal at that point, right? I was just getting out of the conservative-ish echo chamber that was my upbringing, and going to, being an agriculture major in my college, right? And it took really getting humbled in so many ways. And what I will say is I have seen a shift in my community that I've never seen before. Now the white liberals are still kind of trying to get in the way, and I'm having hard conversations, and it's specifically Gen X. White Gen X liberals are
oh my God.
Right, because they got more conservative, and they are the reason that the party had continued to shift right. The only change that they will accept is to the right. They won't accept change to the left. They've just gotten more conservative and carried the party with them, and then they get confused why people don't want to vote for that party anymore. Well, y'all changed the party. We didn't change, y'all changed. We didn't get more progressive, you got less progressive. And you left us out in the cold. And so I'm having these conversations with the white liberal women that I are open-minded to critique, right? I need to get in with them, because I've told them, and I've had those conversations actually this past week, where I was like, the problem is you can sit here and say, well, Gen X is, more conservative. And I was like, well, that's where we need you to step in. We need you to take the words.
Now let me correct you. It's white Gen X. Now, mind you, I am also Gen X, and it just
I didn't say white women.
Okay. I was so disappointed as a Gen X.
No, I said white women. Yeah, no, white women, Gen X.
Okay, here's a quick story time. Growing up Gen X in Montgomery, Alabama, white country, So I hung out with white Gen Xers. We listened to heavy metal music. We went to bonfires, We had the Breakfast Club, with Judd Nelson with the fist up at the end of the movie, and, listen to Headbangers Ball on the weekend. Yeah, we did all that. And then, 2015 comes around. these people I went to high school with, I graduated with, I'm seeing them putting Trump stuff all over their Facebook. I'm like, wait a minute, hold up. With the kid parties and stuff. And this dude had a crush on me. He had a big old truck, but like this dude had a crush on me. It was like, wait a minute, Trump, what? I had to block, and unfollow people I knew for like 30 plus years because of Trump. I don't regret it one bit, but they were the white Gen Xers.
Yeah,
So,
and that was my point. Is I was like, the thing is that I know that y'all Gen X, like the white Gen X, I was like, they won't listen to millennials. They will not listen to us because they look at us like children. They look at us like we're still children. And I was like, and Gen Z, obviously, they're still in the womb at this point, according
and
to
the
Gen.
thing is, though, you are their kids, though.
Right, but the thing about that is that they will not recognize. They parentify us in every way other than listening to us when it comes to the topic of having empathy, because we have a better understanding of that. Because therapy was destigmatized a lot more when we decided to start doing the healing work. These generations have so much more language behind mental health issues, behind building community, because we had to build community,
Right.
because we became adults when the economy crashed and our parents are panicking and still reeling from 9/11, and they were just gone. They, like, the world completely shifted and we had to watch everything we thought we knew completely shift. And so we had to build community around that, because the family that I grew up in, the dynamics I was in was, if you don't work, you don't eat, every man for themselves. And so I built community with my friends. We had networks of who was going to be helping with making bulk amounts of food, and everybody come to this one house so everybody can have, lunch, dinner, and we built community. And so I think that what the difficult conversations that I'm having are with the generations past, to try and convince them to stop holding us back, because they still do command a good chunk of political power with the vote that they have, and they're constantly pushing for either the status quo or moving right. And I was like, and I love that we have some of y'all that are open to critique, but we need you to stop name calling, insulting, and using your anger and your rage at people you disagree with, and learn how to have hard conversations with your contemporaries. Because that's half the issue, is that you don't know how to sell it other than calling the other side stupid. And that doesn't work. People don't learn when you call them stupid. I've taught a lot of people and it just doesn't work. And so I'm trying to have more of those hard conversations with women in those communities, because we are, and even millennial white women are still, obviously a lot of us became our parents. And so we still have conversations to have, but definitely more open to criticism as a whole. And so it's easier to, I would say, have those conversations with millennials than I would say it's ever been to have them with Gen X.
And that's what I wasn't understanding too, like, especially back in 2016, because like I would see a lot of the liberal white women, especially, they're like, well, I'm blue, vote blue, no matter who, blue, I'm Democrat, I'm this, that, and I'm asking them, okay, if y'all are really working or doing the work, why are you still sitting down at the dinner table at Thanksgiving carving the turkey with your racist relatives if you're doing the work? Why? I don't understand that. Because, as an example, my late husband being white, ginger from Queens, New York, so he did not like the Trumper and Giuliani and all them. He didn't like them. So he had a racist cousin that had a problem. Like, we had family functions. His mother loved me. I loved his mother too. We're supposed to go to family functions. He's like, his cousin such and such there. He had a problem. He says, I'm not going because I have a black wife and black kids. So anywhere he is, do not expect me to come. I'm not coming by myself. I'm not leaving my black wife and black kids at home. No, I'm not leaving my family at home. And that's how he operated with his racist family members. So that's why I guess me going through understanding that, I didn't understand why these white women that proclaim to be for, you know what I'm saying? Didn't understand that they're still sitting down at the holiday table with these racist people.
Right. Well, racism is domestic violence, right? And so the way I describe it, and after it took me many, many years, right? It took me being in a situation where my life was at risk, essentially, before I realized that what certain types of violence even are, right? That it doesn't have to be hands on you to be violent, right? But what we have here is trauma bonds that it feels like breaking an active addiction to get out of a trauma bond. These systems and these structures, the way that these families operate, are based on trauma bonds. And so it's like, why does that woman keep going back an average of 7 times before she gets out? It's
right. I can't relate to that either.
It's right. It's very much the same dynamic in a lot of ways. And that's why I focus so much when you see a lot of my videos on radical empathy and healing, because I don't have to have sympathy for you constantly putting yourself in a position to harm all the people around you because you can't get it together. But I can have empathy for how we got here so that maybe we can address some of that, unpack some of these boxes, and make some space for progress.
Right.
But a lot of this boils down to the white community needs to heal. And it's until we free ourselves from white supremacy, no one else can be free of it.
And that's why it's going to be generations and generations. And on that, we will come back to this topic because this is an ongoing topic and it has to be said. It has to be. So if you guys out there have stories you would like to share on this topic, I'm interested in hearing it. I want to hear it. You know, I got more stories too, but like and for Rosalie, y'all have any questions for her? Leave them in the box, but we're not done with this. So what we're going to do, this is a 2-parter because we're coming back and we're going to take a break here, and we're coming back and we're going to talk about the medic attacks. And is the medic attacks? Yeah. So we're going to come back after this break. So this is part 1. We're back. Welcome to the second half of Seen and Heard podcast, where everyone should be seen and heard. And Rosalie, we're getting ready to talk about the medic attacks. And I want to open us up with this video. And then, Rosalie, I want you to get your thoughts on the other side of this video from the LBC, which is in Britain, London, UK. So we'll talk on the other side of this video.
Can't hear the video unless you can.
That, among other videos that I saw last night, give me your thoughts.
So basically what wound up happening is that 15 medics went out to go and rescue some folks that were out. They coordinated this with authorities like they always do. They had their flashing lights on. They had their reflective vests on. It was very clearly marked who they were, what they were there to do. They went out. As soon as they got out of their vehicles, they were immediately met with fire from Israeli forces. And that's what's shown in the footage that was found on a cell phone of one of the individuals that was buried in a mass grave along with the vehicles and their bodies, and a cell phone was left behind that he had recorded, which directly refuted Israel claiming that they had driven in without their lights on. They mistook them for the same typical, they looked like they were insurgents or whoever, they looked like they were Hamas. And the reality is that the footage came out and was found after they went in to kind of dig them out later, and they found the mass grave that they'd all been shot and buried, and that they obviously knew exactly who they were shooting at. And it's just another glaring example of the mask off nature of the genocide that's taking place over there right now. If anything, the violence has escalated since the ceasefire went out of place again. Since before the ceasefire went into place, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. I don't think that the human brain is designed to see that many shredded up kids, that many dead kids. I've seen too many kids just in a state that there's too many images on my phone. Like, there's too many things that I have saved and recorded. And there's, at this point, it's not about them not having enough evidence. It's not about those things at all. It is just a realistic, we need to be honest with ourselves about the fact that we are committing a genocide. There's actually no need to continue debating about that, because at this point it is proven time and time again that war crimes are being committed, and we have Netanyahu just keeps coming back to U.S. soil, despite the fact that he has been indicted by an international court and has charges against him and an arrest warrant against him. If this were any country that we didn't have an economic interest in, and all of these things were taking place, we would be invading that country right now, or claiming that we're invading it to save those people. But because they have resources we want, they have a trade route we want, and that's the reason why the Middle East has been such a tumultuous place historically, and especially since Britain got their hands on it. But the violence that we're seeing escalate here, that's happening right now, if it's going to translate, everything that they're willing to do to Palestinians over there now is practice for what they may enact on us here in small ways, or even big ways. I don't think that we're going to get to the point where they're completely, bombing out millions of people on US soil in that sense, but a lot of the more apartheid regime control tactics, that where do they think Israel got inspiration for that? And so it's this tug of war of who can do the apartheid the worst at this point. And it's culminating in a place where the United States is getting exactly what it deserves on the world stage as far as its reputation goes. As far as I even heard news today that there was a coalition of a group of countries that met in January that are putting together and trying to recruit an actual force to potentially go in, boots on the ground, to stop what's going on there outside of the UN. And you can see, a lot of U.S. Police force is trained by the IDF. And a lot of American citizens go get dual citizenship with Israel. We have many, many, many American citizens living over in Israel right now, dual citizens. And we just need to get to a point.
This is terrifying.
If we're not willing to look at the nasty underbelly of what this is, we will never be able to fight the underbelly here at home. We'll just never be able to do it. And until we can stop allowing this to happen to other folks for the sake of what we think is comfort, we remain stuck. We remain trapped. And the Black community has been trying to tell us this for years, because there's been so much solidarity between the Palestinians and the Black community and the indigenous communities. And it's again another example of how white people don't listen until it's finally not at our doorstep. And it's heartbreaking. It has felt like screaming into an echo chamber. I'm not an echo chamber, but screaming at a wall. And I just wanted to bring light to it because I think it's important that we never stop talking about these things. I think it's important that we talk about what's going on in the United States, but we can't ignore what that influence and what that cultural and what all the things that are happening here are doing to affect everyone else as well. We need to make it stop. So,
and even for myself, like I did not learn of the depths of the Black and Palestinian solidarity and the history of the Black Palestinian solidarity, honestly, until I mean, I'd heard little, stories, some stories like scattered stories before October 7th, but after October 7th, I I went and looked for it myself. Why there was such a bond. Because I did remember, and it came from the Palestinians during the Black Lives Matter movement and their solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, and that's where I picked up on that, and then learned of the history going back to Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. As well as Martin Luther King meeting with Thich Nhat Hanh in Vietnam, the Buddhist monk for Plum Village. He had solidarity with the Vietnamese. So it's everything I've seen from October 7th, because I couldn't understand. So that's why I went back to relearn and educate myself, which I did. And I was just dumbfounded at and we can't escape it from any administration. We can't escape it. It seems, because the U.S., with their ties with the U.K., like you said, the U.K. is the one that took these people's land and said, "Oh, we're just going to give your land to someone else." 80 years ago, and this has been ongoing for 80 years, and it's.
I often say that the United States and Israel are just kissing cousins of the British Empire.
And we're cousins of Brits too.
That's what I'm saying. We're kissing cousins of the British Empire. We just are. The reason everyone's like, oh, well, the reason why the United States cannot hold Israel accountable for what it's doing is because it would then need to look within. It would reveal all the skeletons. And I've said this before, but I mean, Israel literally knows where the bodies are buried in that sense, because we are so intermingled and entrenched. And Joe Biden, made that perfectly clear. If there wasn't an Israel, we would have to invent one. It's the way that the Jewish refugees were used as pawns, the way that the Arab population were also used as pawns, specifically to get people fighting so that they could go in and then be the protectors of the area. And these people just need us to help them, and then they could victimize what was happening to folks who were just trying to find a place to call home, right? And it turned into what we see before us today.
Yeah, I went all the way back to the World War II, when they were on the boats and being turned away, and I was just learning, and I'm just like, I just I got more questions than answers, even where that's concerned. But
even goes back into the late 1800s.
Oh yeah,
so they were, and there's also some information talking about how, when they were trying to purge Jewish people from Europe prior to that point, because the anti-Semitism wasn't a brand new thing during World War II, it had been happening. In fact, they were coordinating ways to get them out already ahead of time, and had already established some Zionist settlements back in the before World War II was even a thought.
And that's the key, Zionism. That's the key. And then how they keep control of that narrative is they try to shut up and shut down anyone that tries to call it out.
Right.
oh, you're attacking the Jewish community. Like the first time I'd ever in my life been called anti-Semitic was after October 7th, because I made a comment, and it wasn't it wasn't like a rude or crude comment. It was because of what I saw of
Right.
like the babies being blown apart, and I made a comment. And I had somebody that had followed me. This is back when I was still on Twitter, which, I'm off now, but they followed me for like over 10 years at least, and they jumped in my post and said, you're anti-Semitic for what I said. And I went back and reread what I had posted, and I was like, that's not anti-Semitic. I was just calling out an action. And
Right.
it was like, then I saw the ploy that they were using, that tactic of anyone, especially when it got to the professors at the colleges and the students that were protesting, and all of um, the intellectual people, the scholars that were
Mm-hmm.
calling it out. Ta-Nehisi Coates, I've done podcasts about him. He actually went over to Palestine. So if y'all go subscribe to the YouTube, I have a video where Ta-Nehisi Coates is talking. It's at least a 30-minute video, but his pilgrimage to Palestine is very enlightening.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to learn, I have it on our page, so you have to scroll through and watch the videos. And yeah, thumbs up the video, share the video, leave a comment, let me know what you think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we need to have these discussions.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, I try to reiterate these power structures are failing miserably all at once. This is the death throes of these systems, and it's a huge power vacuum that's going to be coming up here soon. And we can choose whether it sucks up a good thing or it continues to suck up a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we have an opportunity in this moment to actually affect real change and actually stand up for the people that are there. And I think that we're seeing the world shift, and this part of it is the
Mm-hmm.
unprecedented part, in
Mm-hmm.
my opinion. As far as most people didn't even know anything other than knowing that the Gaza Strip was called the Gaza Strip.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I didn't know. I assumed it was just a beach. I didn't know anything about it. It sounded like a tourist destination to
I
me.
didn't either. I had no idea.
Like you talk about the Strip, like in Vegas, or at the oceanfront, Virginia Beach, or in
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco, like the Strip, the beach, and that's what it always, and it never occurred to me. It's always been in Western media that there was just never anything to look at. There's nothing over here to see. There's nothing here to
Right.
see. And it highlighted it and allowed people to see so many other things. I didn't know what was going on in Sudan, Congo,
Mm-hmm.
all of these other Haiti, all of these other locations. And it's going to be that tipping point, I think, for not just the United States. There's a big humbling coming for a good chunk of Europe as well. The West is being weighed and measured at the
Mm-hmm.
moment. And it's about damn time, frankly.
And I want to give a shout out to the Buddhist community, because a lot of people think the Buddhists are, mild mannered, meek, sit on your hands or sit in the lotus position and meditation, which they do that too. But they are, which I consider myself an engaged Buddhist as well, the same as Thich Nhat Hanh. And there's a call to action. There's a new community that started, call to action, Buddhist Coalition for Democracy. Preamble. As Buddhists, we recognize our profound interconnectedness and the prime importance of universal compassion and loving kindness. We affirm the need to listen to differing viewpoints and openness and equanimity, and to respond with wise minds, caring hearts. We aspire towards society that values all of its members, believe democratic values, institutions, and processes are the best means for realizing it. As Buddhists, we are called upon to witness, respond to, and resist the ongoing systemic destruction of norms and institutions that allow free societies to flourish. We have witnessed the fringes of institutional watchdogs and the appointments of political extremists. We have witnessed the politicization of the Justice Department, the willful defiance of court orders, and attempts to muzzle the free press and curtail academic freedom. We have witnessed diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts outlawed, and the freezing of monies allotted for scientific and medical research. We have witnessed democratic allies abandoned and new alliances forged with dictators. We have witnessed foreign aid suspended and the nation's healthcare infrastructure and social safety net endangered. We have witnessed regulations that protect our food, air, and water eliminated. We have witnessed the illegal firings of tens of thousands of federal employees whose valuable work contributed to the general welfare. We have witnessed the deportation of legal residents without due process, plans to detain immigrants in concentration camps, and the persecution of the trans community. We are witnessing the emergence of kleptocracy run by oligarchs for oligarchs and aligned with oligarchs worldwide. There's a link there, and I will be sharing that link in the description. So because there's a lot more in there, but those are just some of the passages that I found that were very profound. And just to let everybody know that the some Buddhist sects are not inactive. They are very active in the democratic process. And I'm part of that. And I'm very, very, very pleased to be a part of that as a Buddhist, an active, engaged Buddhist. Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I love learning new things because I was telling you before we had filmed our first podcast, you're probably one of the first person that I've met that was like a practicing Buddhist. So it's been wonderful learning about what your faith entails and kind of how that informs how you move through the world. It's wonderful to see.
For obvious reasons. I grew up in the church, but I left for obvious reasons. Because I just don't see, I mean, to call yourself a Christian and support. And when I saw those pictures of them as supposed Christians laying hands on that man in the White House, like all those denominations of churches laying hands on him, and like I'm like,
yeah.
And I'm not supposed to be in a position of judging, but I'm not technically not judging, but I'm just like I'm not don't want to be associated with that, so I remove myself from that.
Yeah, I mean, there's elements. There's elements of how I was raised in it that, I mean, I think my relationship and my understanding of Jesus is why I'm not in the church.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, I think he seems like a pretty groovy dude, and I would have loved to have known him. In fact, I would love it if the church would also try to get to know him a little better, or at least pay attention to what they know about him.
Because I kept my faith in that I learned in the church, but like you,
right?
My understanding of what I knew of him, yeah,
yeah, they would have stopped him at TSA and not even let him in the country. You know,
I actually saw a Trump or MAGA say on video that this guy, there's a guy that goes around. He doesn't necessarily antagonize the MAGAs, but he goes to their rallies. And you probably know he's a white guy, but he's a comedian.
Brown hair.
He's asking the MAGA person, like, what do you think of Jesus? Would you allow Jesus in here? She's like, if he came in the right way.
No.
She said if he came.
How can he not come in the right way when he is the way? You guys can get together and take a straw. See, that's what I'm talking about.
It's like, he's like, Jesus is an immigrant, would you allow him in? Only if he can the right way.
Wait till they find out he was a refugee who crossed the border into Egypt.
And he wasn't white. There were no white people in the Bible.
No one in the Bible is.
There are no white people in the Bible.
I didn't even realize that until I was in my 20s. That's crazy. That's crazy that I didn't know. I'm very into that's crazy. Anyway.
See how they indoctrinate I grew up with all that too, because I remember, I don't know, you're too young to remember, but there was this episode of Good Times. Well, you've heard of Good Times, the show there was an episode where their mom, Florida, had this picture of white Jesus on her wall. JJ painted a picture of a black Jesus with the afro, gray afro, and they were going through, having debates about it. She was upset because she wanted to keep that white Jesus on the wall. And Michael, the youngest son, he was like, but Jesus wasn't white. She's like, what? What are you saying? And he goes into Revelation, and he read the passage where it says his eyes were red, his hair was of wool, and he had feet of like brass or something like that. It's in Revelation. And she just looked at the picture because the description in Revelation was like the picture. And it like brought the family luck and everything for a while. But yeah, she was like adamant about keeping that white Jesus on the wall, and they had a black Jesus.
The way people will have Michelangelo's gay lover on their wall is crazy.
Yeah, he was
gay people. That's crazy.
Well, I mean, hey,
that's who Jesus is. The lore is insane. We could definitely go down this route.
We're definitely going to do another podcast. Right. We're going to cover this
religious trauma podcast.
Right. Yeah. You know what? There's a Queen Heretic. I'm shouting out Queen Heretic. She is a person I follow on TikTok as well, and she's a recovering Christian.
And what's interesting is I have seen some Christians through this, to be honest with you, that I thought were going to turn into the thing that I didn't want them to turn into, and they actually pleasantly surprised me. There are so many, in the same way that you see a lot of the Jewish community really coming around that were previously Zionists, right? And and also the Christian community, right? Because like you said, most of us don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. Ignorance is a tool of the oppressor,
right?
And so the more that we have these conversations, the more that we're able to kind of laugh at ourselves as well. I think it's so healing to be able to be like, ooh.
I think people can relate to that better, because it's like we're not perfect. I don't want to be perfect. I want to be able to relate to somebody that feels kind of goofy. I'm a goofy. I am a goofy. I'm going to embrace that. I have embraced my goofiness because I've been awkward and goofy like all my life.
Right. I am the queen of whimsy. I'm going to spread everything that I do, whether you like it or not. Sometimes people don't, But.
And on that, we're gonna leave this with you guys. So you guys, we really want to get y'all engaged. So call to action. Get engaged in the comment section. Thumbs up the video. Share the video. Leave us voicemails, even if you're too shy to come on camera. Leave us voicemails, and we'll play your voicemails on the show. So we'll do commentary about your voicemail. Ask us a question. We'll try to answer it. We're not academics. Like I'm not a professor or anything, but I will go out. I will try to look up, the answer for you, as well as Rosalie. Rosalie, she's very good with finances. So we'll learn a lot on this show, because we'll try to bring it with a little laughter, because we need some laughter these days. So until then, Rosie, you have any last words? Give us some last words.
I agree. I think that I would love to get some more people involved in this process. I think it's really important that we continue to build this community out. Again, Sharon does this self-taught. This is something that is been a huge passion project of hers for a really long time. And we would love to get some VIP members signed up, subscribe to her Substack, because we're able to go live on Substack once she gets to a certain number of followers. I'm going to be building out some of my content on Substack as well. I'm Rosie, the originator, on there. What is your handle on there again? Because I don't think it's
Beyond the Pod. Beyond the Pod. But what I'll do is put the link in, and we could put our links to our Substack in the description. So it'll be in the box. So y'all could go click straight on there.
Perfect. Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll see y'all on the next one.
When I was a baby, I don't know what I saw first. My mama, my papa, or this Jesus. Now, he's the one I know and love, so let's close the subject. Jesus was black, the Bible would have said so.
But it does say so.
What are you talking about?
I read about it, it's in Revelations chapter 1, verse 14. I read about it in Muhammad Speaks. It says, his hair is like wool, and his eyes are like flame of fire.
Oh, Lord have mercy. It sure do say that, don't it?
And see, Mama, look at that hair, like